Hey, welcome to Psychology. This is Chapter 10, Infancy and Childhood. In this section, we're going to talk about developmental psychology. Developmental psychology is the study of how people grow and change throughout their lives. Developmental psychologists are concerned with many issues. One issue is the extent to which the heredity, nature, and environment nurture affect development. Another is whether people developed in distinct stages or whether development is more gradual and steady. The main idea of this section is the field of developmental psychology examines physical, social, and cognitive development. Heredity and environment control different aspects of development to varying degrees. So in your notes, when we complete this section, what you should have is the answers to why and how do psychologists study development? How do both heredity and environment contribute to the development process? And how would you describe development as a process of stages versus continuity? The developmental psychology is the field in which psychologists study how we grow and change throughout the lifespan from conception until death. Psychologists use two methods to study people across the lifespan. The longitudinal method, in which researchers select a group of participants and then observe the same group for a period of time, often years or decades. The cross-sectional method, in which researchers select a sample, includes people of different ages and then compare the participants in different age groups. Developmental psychologists are concerned with two general issues: ways in which heredity and environmental influence contribute to human development, whether development occurs gradually or in stages. Psychologists have long debated the extent to which human behavior is determined by heredity, nature, or environment, nurture. Maturation is the automatic and sequential process of development that results from genetic signals. A critical period is a stage or point in development during which a person is best suited to learn a particular skill or behavior pattern. Arnold Giselle proposed that maturation played the most important role in development. John Watson's view, however, favored the tabula rasa viewpoint of development. Tabula rasa meaning the blank slate. And so what Watson thought is that we were created from a blank slate. Developmental psychologists debate whether human development occurs primarily in stages or as a continuous process. Maturational theorists generally believe that the most development occurs in stages. Jean Piaget is one of the most famous stage theorists. Other psychologists, including J.H. Flavel, argue that cognitive development is a gradual and continuous process, not just stages. Developmental stages. Theories based on the existence of stages hold that development occurs in a predetermined sequence of steps. One cannot jump or skip steps, and everyone takes the steps in the same order. For example, Jean Piaget theorized that children are able to understand certain things between ages 2 and 7, but move on to a whole new knowledge set of skills between the ages of 7 and 12. Piaget's theory sees cognitive development as a result of pre-programmed heredity. Continuous development, or continuity, theories are based on the idea that continuity hold the stages of development do not exist. For example, behaviorists such as John Watson believe that children pick up knowledge constantly through observation and learning. Each new bit of acquired knowledge builds upon what is learned before. Behaviorist theories, therefore, stress the importance of environment over that of heredity or cognitive development. Section 2. Physical development. Children grow physically from the time they are conceived through infancy and childhood. Reflexes, motor development, and perceptual development are all important aspects of physical development. In this section, you'll learn that in the womb, infancy, and childhood, humans go through a series of physical developments that are generally sequential. So in your notes, you should have, how is physical growth important from conception through childhood? What are reflexes and how are they beneficial? What is motor development, and what do infants learn through the process of perceptual development? Physical growth. Changes in reflexes gain in height and what motor development and perceptual development are examples of physical development. The most dramatic gains in height and weight occur before an infant's birth. During infancy, the period from birth to age of 2 years, dramatic gains continue in height and weight. During childhood, the period from 2 years old to adolescence, children gain on average 2 to 3 inches and 4 to 6 pounds each year until they reach the start of adolescence. Even when they're very new babies, are born with what's called the Babinski reflex, which means they raise their big toe and fan out all their toes when the soles of their feet are touched. So if you have a new baby around, you should try this. A reflex is an involuntary reaction or response such as swallowing. Reflexes are inborn, not learned, and they occur automatically. Reflexes include grasping, rooting, sucking, swallowing, and the Moro reflex and the Babinski reflex. As children develop, many reflexes such as rooting, sucking disappear. Some reflexes remain and others come under voluntary control. The development of purposeful movement is called motor development. Gross motor development refers to baby's progress in coordinating major muscle groups. Fine motor development refers to coordination of the hands and other small muscles. The point at which various types of motor development occur is different from infant to infant, even from culture to culture. Infants tend to prefer new and interesting stimuli. Infants' perceptual preferences are influenced by their age. Infants' depth perception seems to be influenced by experience. In the past, ideas about how to raise children generally came from one's own family, religion, and other institutions within the community, beginning around the 1900s. However, the theories of the psychologists increasingly began to inform American parenting strategies. Why did parents look beyond traditional sources to learn how to raise children? Social upheavals of the last 100 years give clues to the answer. One popular parenting idea is the Mozart effect, which says that playing Mozart's music helps children's intelligence. Results, however, have been shown to be limited. Another idea deals with the importance of play. Some parenting books and theories have more merit than others. Parents need to do homework when looking for help with their kids. Section 3, Social Development. Through the process of social development, infants and children learn to relate to other people. Attachments, bonds, and infants and children to those close to them, and the quality of this attachment affects how they develop. Parenting styles cover up a wide range, but some styles are more likely to produce well-adjusted children who place a high value on themselves. The value one places on oneself is called self-esteem. So the main idea of this section is social development in infants and children has much to do with the parents' behaviors, history, personalities, and abilities. Other caregivers are involved in raising many American children. So our focus in this section is, why is attachment vital to human relationships? How do styles of parenting differ? And what are some issues associated with child abuse and neglect? How does outside child care affect the children's development? And what is the importance of self-esteem to developing children? Attachment. Attachment is an important factor affecting social development. It is defined as the emotional ties that form between people. Up until 4 months of age, infants prefer being held or even being with someone. By about 4 months, infants develop strong attachments to their main caregivers, usually their mothers. By about 8 months, some infants develop stranger anxiety and separation anxiety. Based on studies with monkeys, researchers have concluded that attachment grows more from contact comfort than from feeding. Bonds of attachment between mothers and infants appear to provide secure base from which infants can explore their environment. For many animals, attachment is an instinct. In the process called imprinting, some animals become attached to the first moving object they see. We see this a lot in ducks and geese. Children do not imprint. It takes several months before children become attached to their main caregivers. Secure versus insecure attachment. When mothers or other primary caregivers are affectionate and reliable, infants usually become securely attached. When caregivers are unresponsive or unreliable, infants are usually securely attached. Secure infants may mature into secure children. Autism is a developmental disorder that prevents children from forming proper attachments with others. People with autism have a very wide variety of symptoms, from very severe to very subtle. Mild autism can go undiagnosed for years. Parents and doctors often recognize symptoms of autism during infancy and early childhood. Harry Harlow did a series of experiments on contact comfort with monkeys, and Harlow's baby monkeys were nourished by wire monkeys. Even so, the monkeys chose to cling to the soft cloth mothers, which seemed to give them comfort. Autism is diagnosed. Cases of autism are growing through an increase, maybe due to the greater knowledge and better diagnostic techniques. Autism can devastate families, and its impact on society is growing. 3.7 to 1 ratio of males and females are diagnosed with autism. 300% of the number of U.S. children aged 4 to 17 are diagnosed with autism through 2004. The percentage of parents of autistic children who reported that their child needed special services for a medical, behavior, or other condition. And so, as you can see, autism can be a serious problem. Styles of parenting: warm or cold. Warm parents show a great deal of affection to their children. Cold parents may not be as affectionate toward their children or appear to enjoy them very much. Research suggests that children fare much better when the parents are warm to them. Children of warm parents are more likely to be well-adjusted. Some parents are strict with their children, imposing many rules and supervising their children closely. Some parents are permissive with their children, imposing fewer rules and watching their children less closely. Authoritative parents combine warmth and age-appropriate rules and responsibilities. Authoritarian parents believe in obedience for its own sake. So these are the styles of parenting. Styles of parenting lie somewhere in the categories: strict, permissive, and cold, warm. Each pair of words in the chart, such as demanding, lenient, detached, and affectionate, represent ends of the continuum. Most parents do not lie at these extreme ends, but generally fall somewhere in the middle. So strict parents tend to be demanding, controlling, dictatorial, and antagonistic. Lenient parents tend to be democratic, inconsistent, and overindulgent. Cold parents are indifferent, careless, detached, and negligent. Supportive, protective, and affectionate and caring parents are warm. And of course, you'd want to be the warm parent. Most parents are kind and loving to their children. Yet child abuse is relatively widespread and seriously underreported. The following factors are associated with child abuse and neglect: stress, especially from unemployment or poverty, a history of physical or sexual abuse in at least one parent's family, acceptance of violence as a way of coping with stress, lack of attachment to the child, substance abuse, rigid attitudes about child rearing. Studies show that children who are abused run a higher risk of developing psychological problems. Child abuse tends to run in families. Most American parents work outside the home, and more than half of the mothers of children younger than 1 year of age are working mothers. Millions of preschoolers are cared for in daycare facilities. Studies of effects of technical glitch there. Millions of preschoolers are cared for in daycare facilities. Studies of the effects of daycare on parent-child attachments have shown mixed results. Daycare seems to have mixed effects on other aspects of children's social development. The quality of the care seems to be more important than who provides it. Whether a child receives non-parental care or depends to some degree on questions of age, income, and education. 53% of 1-year-olds who have non-parental child care jumps to 85% at age 5. 53% of households with an income of $10,000 or less a year that have non-parental child care rises to 72% for households over $75,000. 43% of mothers with high school diploma or a GED have children in child care. 74% of mothers with graduate or professional degrees have children in child care. Self-esteem, the value of worth that people attach to themselves, begins to develop in early childhood. Influences on self-esteem? Well, their secure attachment plays a major role in influencing self-esteem. Another influence is how parents react to their children. Children who receive unconditional positive regard usually develop high self-esteem. Children who receive conditional positive regard may have lower self-esteem. Gender and self-esteem. Girls tend to develop greater competence in reading and general academic skills, and boys tend to display competence in math and physical skills. This may be because this is what girls and boys are supposed to be good at. It's not for genetic reasons. Although children gain in competence as they grow older, their self-esteem tends to decline during the elementary school years. It seems to reach a low point at about age 12 or 13 and increases again during adolescence. The self-esteem trap. By the 1970s, greater self-esteem was thought of by many as a potential cure for all society's problems. Showering children with praise regardless of their performance was common practice. Findings in 2000s, however, showed that high self-esteem in children did not lead to higher grades. High self-esteem did not make violent kids any less, or keep kids from becoming bullies. Focusing on building self-esteem at the expense of other qualities such as self-control and self-discipline may be misguided. Again, with the autism. People with autism have a difficult road in life. The list of possible problems associated with autism is long and troubling. Recent research is looking deep into the brains of people with autism to help explain and attempt to deal with the condition. Researchers are observing the activity in mother-child pairs where the child has autism in order to learn about the differences in brain function in people with autism versus people without autism. Other research focuses on the study of mirror neurons. Studies of mirror neurons systems of people with autism show that they respond when they performed an activity but not when they observed it. These two areas of research may help doctors diagnose autism earlier and help in the development and treatment of people with autism. Cognitive development. Cognitive development is the development of people's thought processes. The psychologist Jean Piaget divided cognitive development into 4 stages: the sensory motor stage, the preoperational stage, the concrete operational stage, and the formal operational stage. The psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg's theories of moral development has 3 stages: the preconventional level, the conventional level, and the post-conventional level. Each of these 3 levels is further divided into 2 levels. So in this section, your main idea is to study cognitive development looks like and how people thought the process of change evolved over time. Jean Piaget and Lawrence Kohlberg are 2 influential theorists in this area. So at this point, what you should have in your notes, or what you should have in your notes in completion of this section, is what are the stages of Piaget's theory of cognitive development? How did Kohlberg use moral development to illustrate his theory of moral development? All right, so this is Piaget. Jean Piaget is one of the most important people in psychology, so it's very important that you understand these concepts. Many of his ideas are still very valid and used today, even though they were developed over 100 years ago. Piaget believed that human beings use assimilation and accommodation to organize new information. Assimilation is the process by which new information is placed into categories that already exist. Accommodation is the change brought about by new information. The first stage of cognitive development is the sensory motor stage. This stage is characterized by learning to coordinate sensation and perception with motor activity. It's also characterized by object permanence. So the sensory motor stage is 0 to 2, and this is where you learn to coordinate your sensation, your perception with your motor activity and development of object permanence. The pre-operational stage is one-dimensional thinking. It displays egocentrism, artificialism, and animism. Concrete operational stage is 7 to 12, and signs of adult thinking about specific objects but not abstract ideas, and reduced egocentrism. Formal operational stage is 12 plus, capable of abstract thinking, able to deal with hypothetical situations, can strategize and plan ahead to solve problems. The pre-operational stage is the next stage is the pre-operational stage. It's characterized by one-dimensional thinking and egocentrism. The concrete operational stage, children begin to show signs of adult thinking. They're logical only when they think about specific objects and concrete experiences. They focus 2 dimensions of the problem at the same time, and they're less egocentric than children in earlier stages. The final stage in Piaget's theory is the formal operational stage. People in this stage think abstractly. They can deal with hypothetical situations, they can solve problems, and use imagination. Some of the psychologists have questioned the accuracy of Piaget's views. Recent research indicates that preschoolers are less egocentric than Piaget's researchers suggest. His theories are still highly respected, however. At the pre-operational stage, children are self-centered. They also think that objects are alive, people who are responsible for workings of nature. So the egocentric, why does the sun shine? To keep me warm. Why is the grass green? Because that's my favorite color. What are TV sets for? To watch my favorite cartoons. Everything is about them. This is why they stand in front of the television and sit and point and say, can you see here, that's seeing that funny? And of course you can't see it because they're in the way. That kind of thing. Artificialistic is why do the stars twinkle? Because they're happy. Why do trees have light leaves? To keep them warm. Where do boats go at night? They go to sleep like me. Okay, animistic, why is the sky blue? Somebody painted it. Why do mountains come? Where do mountains come from? A giant built them. And what is the wind? A person is blowing. So these are all examples of pre-operational thinking. Kohlberg's theory of moral development is the pre-conventional level. Children through the age of 9 use pre-conventional moral reasoning to base their judgments of consequences of behavior. The conventional level, the people at this level use conventional moral reasoning to make judgments in terms of whether An act conforms to conventional standards of behavior. The post-conventional reasoning is based on person's own moral standards or goodness. It's called post-conventional moral reasoning. And the bias in Kohlberg's theory, Kohlberg's stages and scoring system may have been biased to favor males. Kohlberg's stages of moral development: preconventional, avoiding punishment, doing what is necessary to avoid punishment; satisfying needs, doing what is necessary to satisfy one's needs. So here what they do is they lie when they get into the cookie jar, and they get into the cookie jar because it satisfies their sweet tooth. Okay? Conventional is winning approval, seeking and maintaining approval of others using conventional standards of right and wrong. So here they wouldn't get into the cookie jar because they want your approval. Law and order: moral judgments are based on maintaining social order and high regard of authority. Here in the conventional method is that they're, it's all black and white crime, It's either right or it's wrong. You didn't, and you should be punished one way or the other. There's no justification for it. Like, what's his name? Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, where he steals the loaf of bread, because he's hungry. And, of course, being hungry is not a factor. So it's just about punishment. Post-conventional thinking is social order, obedience to accepted laws, judgments based on personal values. The universalistic morality of individual conscience is not necessarily in agreement with others. So Piaget or Kohlberg: wow, Mom cut the candy bar exactly in half. It's perfect. The pieces are identical. I can't tell them apart. Look, they even had the same number of peanuts showing on the end. Amazing. Talk about an appetite killer. If there's nothing to fight over, is it still dessert? So would this be Piaget or Kohlberg? And that brings us to a close of our chapter. This is chapter 10, Infancy and Childhood. And we'll continue on with adolescence next time.